What's up guys, I'm just testing out the Kodak PixPro SP360 4K, holding it in my hand as I traverse these rocks. And yeah, the Kodak camera is two 4K cameras back to back at the end of a selfie stick. It's quite different to a lot of the other 360 cameras which are built in to one. It's kind of a mid-range 360 camera, fancier than the Ricoh Theta and the LG and the Samsung, but not quite as high-end as a GoPro rig, for example. I'm really liking it so far. Been using it for a couple of weeks. I found it to be more of a video camera than a stills camera, just because it's hard to preview your images quickly as you're shooting, because they're two separate cameras. You could download information from one to your smartphone, but downloading two and then stitching them is quite a lengthy process, and it makes the practicality of shooting on location not so practical. However, there's a time and a place for each camera. For point and shoots, I use the Ricoh. For something more serious, like when I need a high resolution time lapse, for example, I'll use the Kodak. Really impressed by the quality so far. It is two 4K cameras, however you shouldn't really take it as that, because it's not exactly that. Essentially the image is circular, so firstly that has to be stretched out, and the two images have to be combined into one stretched out 360 image, which then downscales the two 4Ks into one 4K. So now we're down to 4K. With that 4K, we now stretch that around a full 360 sphere as we're viewing it, which then brings down the resolution in any given direction down to about, I don't know, the equivalent of about 720p or so, which is still very impressive given how new 360 technology is. It will definitely be improved in the future, but I like it. For $1,000 Australian, which is what I paid for it, I think I got a great deal for my money. I'm not going to use it all the time. I might use it like once for every 10 times I use the Ricoh, but that one time it just pays off greatly because it looks amazing. And you get some amazing time lapses. I've been using it mainly for time lapses, but I wouldn't hesitate to use it for high-end stuff. So shooting 360 stuff for clients, using it professionally. My only real complaint about this camera is the stitching. It's not always perfect, and when you turn the camera, so at the moment I have one facing me and one facing away from me, when I turn it 90 degrees, now my face starts disappearing. If I move the camera further away, this improves. When I move it closer, I start to look like a mutant, which isn't ideal, but I'm sure they'll fix this with future releases. I mean, it's fair enough, like I understand why that is, because the lenses are about this far apart from each other, and it's really hard to fill in the gap in between the two cameras. So it's not a perfect technology yet, but it is still incredibly impressive for something so new. It also does take a bit of time to set up. It took me about 10 minutes just now to put the rig together, which isn't that long, and like when you're shooting something more high-end, you expect the setup to take that long, so it doesn't bother me really, to be honest, given the result it produces. You can fine-tune the stitch in the Kodak software, which is a free download for Mac and PC. However, it does take a lot of work, and in my experience so far, and I've used it maybe once or twice, so take it for what it is, I haven't been able to fix kind of the bigger stitching issues. So usually I'll try and avoid any action happening close to the camera, again because of that stitch line. So whenever I'm shooting wide shots, I know the Kodak would be perfect. I wouldn't use it like in a marketplace, for example, where there's lots of movement which would be very close to the camera. I'd use it in kind of for landscape photography like this, where you're capturing things quite far away from you and not things that would get cut off in that stitch. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed this little walk around with the Kodak PixPro. Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out if you really want to take 360 seriously and get something kind of in the middle of the range. I mean, I think each one has a time and a place. I use the Kodak, I use the Ricoh Theta, and I use the Insta360 Nano, just depending on the situation, how much time I've got to set up, and kind of what I need from that shoot. For video, I'd use the Kodak. For photo, I'd probably use the Ricoh Theta. And just for fun, I'd use the Insta360 Nano, because it's got a really beautiful, nice big screen attached to the iPhone. All right, guys, until next time, this is Ben from Life in 360. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you haven't already, or on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I've got a book out. It's called Life in 360, A Beginner's Guide to Tiny Planet Photography. The link is in the description. Talk to you soon. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention is these cameras can be taken apart and used separately, almost like GoPros. So you can use them for filming other things as well, filming sports, all that kind of stuff. The lenses are 230 degrees field of view each, so that's really handy. If you need a couple of cameras, like if you do other things like videography and you need second and third angles, it'll be a really good tool for you. It also comes with this cool little watch, which you can use as a watch or just a remote like I do. And you can then sync up the two cameras by just hitting the record button there, and you can switch to photo mode just there. All right, guys, until next time.